Good morning, everyone. Let's start with a simple question. Have you ever walked into a room, looked around, and felt like everyone else just knows more than you? Maybe it's a meeting, a classroom, or a networking event, and you think, wow, I am so out of my league. Now, let's be honest, that feeling is uncomfortable, maybe even downright terrifying. But I want to share something with you today. Being the stupidest in the room is not a curse. It's a gift. Growth happens outside your comfort zone. It's a phrase we've all heard, but it's one we don't often take the time to unpack. Why is growth so intimately tied to discomfort? Why can't we evolve, learn, and improve while staying comfortable? To answer that, we need to explore how humans are wired, how we define growth, and the forces that drive it. As humans, we are creatures of habit. Our brains are designed for efficiency, which means they favor patterns and routines. The more familiar something is, the less mental energy it takes to process. That's why sticking to what we know feels safe and manageable. Comfort zones represent environments, behaviors, and mindsets we've mastered where outcomes are predictable and risks feel minimal. But therein lies the problem. Predictable outcomes offer minimal opportunities for growth. Growth requires uncertainty. It necessitates taking steps into the unknown where we're unsure of the results. When we venture beyond what's familiar, we're forced to engage in a process of learning. We make mistakes, encounter challenges, and adapt. That adaptation, the recalibration and reorganization of how we think and act is what propels us forward. In essence, growth happens not despite discomfort, but because of it. Think about the times in your life when you've learned the most. Were you cruising through a situation you'd encountered dozens of times before? Likely not. The most impactful learning experiences often come from new challenges: your first job, moving to a new city, tackling an unfamiliar project. Those moments are usually uncomfortable because they place demands on us we're not used to meeting. Yet they also lead to breakthroughs, new skills, insights, and confidence. Interestingly, discomfort has another important function. It sparks creativity. When we're in a comfortable environment, our thinking tends to follow established patterns. But in moments of discomfort, when the usual solutions aren't working, our minds are forced to think differently. We generate new ideas, experiment with unconventional approaches, and more often than not, surprise ourselves. This process doesn't just solve immediate challenges, it expands the way we approach problems in the future. This dynamic is evident in both personal and professional contexts. Consider high-performing athletes. They don't improve by practicing what they've already perfected. They push their limits faster, heavier, farther. Their muscles adapt to the strain and rebuild stronger. It's the same with growth in other areas of life. When you stretch yourself intellectually, emotionally, or socially, you develop resilience and capacity you didn't have before. Yet many of us avoid stepping out of our comfort zones because discomfort often triggers fear. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of not being enough. These fears aren't baseless, they're the mind's way of protecting us. But growth asks us to reframe these fears not as stop signs, but as indicators of potential. The presence of fear is often a sign you're on the cusp of something meaningful. The choice then becomes whether you retreat to the familiar or lean into the uncertainty and grow. There's also a misconception that staying comfortable equals staying safe. In truth, avoiding discomfort can limit opportunities and even erode confidence. When you avoid new challenges, you subconsciously reinforce the belief that you're not capable of handling them. Over time, this can shrink your sense of possibility and reduce your willingness to take risks. Paradoxically, this safety often leads to stagnation, the very opposite of what most people want. On the other hand, small, consistent steps outside your comfort zone create a positive feedback loop. The more often you venture into the unknown, the more familiar discomfort becomes. Over time, you begin to trust your ability to navigate uncertainty. Each success builds on the last, expanding your comfort zone and allowing you to tackle even greater challenges. The truth is, growth doesn't happen by accident. It requires intentionality and effort. But it doesn't mean diving into overwhelming situations unprepared. You don't have to transform your entire life overnight. Instead, think of discomfort as a spectrum. Identify where you're too comfortable and where a slight push might stretch you. Perhaps it's speaking up in a meeting, tackling a new skill, or starting a difficult conversation. These small actions compound over time, creating significant growth. Discomfort is a necessary companion to growth, but it's not the enemy. It's a sign that you're stretching beyond what you know, that you're daring to step into a space of possibility. Instead of viewing it as something to be avoided, see it as a guide. The places that make you uncomfortable are often the very places where transformation begins. Being the stupidest in the room means you're in the right room. It's a counterintuitive truth, one that flies in the face of our instincts and pride. Most of us aim to be perceived as competent, knowledgeable, and respected. We avoid situations where we might appear to know less, lack experience, or fall short compared to others. Yet, the irony is that staying in spaces where we feel competent and capable is often what stunts our growth. The rooms where we feel the most out of place, where others seem to know more, are the ones that hold the potential for the most profound development. When you're the stupidest in the room, it means you're surrounded by people who have something to teach you. This isn't a reflection of your inadequacy, it's an opportunity. Imagine being in a room full of experts in their respective fields, each with insights and experiences you've yet to encounter. The value of their knowledge creates an environment ripe for learning. Being the stupidest doesn't mean you have nothing to contribute, it simply means that the collective wisdom around you surpasses your current understanding. That's a powerful place to be. What often holds us back from embracing this dynamic is our fear of judgment. No one enjoys feeling outpaced or overlooked, and admitting we don't know something can feel vulnerable. But vulnerability is a gateway to growth. When you openly acknowledge what you don't know, you create room for others to step in, offer guidance, and share what they've learned. This process not only accelerates your learning, but also fosters connection and mutual respect. Being the stupidest in the room requires a mindset shift. It's about valuing growth over appearances. Too often, people let ego prevent them from admitting gaps in their knowledge. They shy away from asking questions, engaging in new experiences, or seeking mentorship because they fear being perceived as less capable. But this approach creates a plateau. If you only stay in rooms where you feel like the smartest person, your learning slows and your perspective narrows. You become the limiting factor in your growth. In contrast, intentionally placing yourself in rooms where you feel outmatched challenges your assumptions and broadens your perspective. It exposes you to new ideas and ways of thinking. You're not just consuming information, you're stretching your cognitive boundaries. These experiences reshape your understanding of the world and your role within it, making you more adaptable and insightful. Think about the people you admire, the trailblazers, leaders, innovators. Most of them didn't climb to the top by staying comfortable. They sought out people, environments, and challenges that pushed them. They actively placed themselves in situations where they were the least knowledgeable, recognizing that this discomfort was essential for their evolution. They saw themselves not as imposters in these spaces, but as apprentices eager to learn. Being the stupidest in the room is also a humbling experience, and humility is a powerful tool. It reminds us that no one has all the answers, and that's okay. Even the most accomplished individuals in the room had their beginnings. They too entered spaces where they felt out of their depth, learned from those moments, and built on them. Recognizing this shared journey fosters empathy and reminds us that expertise is not an endpoint, it's a process. The most significant opportunities for growth often come from the most unexpected sources. A chance encounter, a challenging conversation, or an observation of how others approach problems can all provide profound insights. These moments are more likely to occur in rooms where you're surrounded by people whose skills and knowledge surpass yours. It's in these environments that you're pushed to pay closer attention, ask deeper questions, and absorb more fully. There's also a unique satisfaction that comes from earning your place in a room where you initially felt outmatched. Every question you ask, every idea you contribute, every skill you refine, moves you closer to meeting the standard set by those around you. It's not about competing with others, it's about embracing the opportunity to elevate yourself through their example. Stepping into a room where you feel like the stupidest is an act of courage. It's not an easy thing to do, but it's a choice that can transform your trajectory. It's an acknowledgement that growth requires discomfort, curiosity, and the willingness to set your ego aside. Each moment of discomfort, every time you wrestle with the challenge of keeping up or understanding a new concept, strengthens your capacity for learning and growth. Curiosity outweighs ego. Ask questions fearlessly. This idea might seem simple at first glance, but in practice, it's one of the most transformative habits you can develop. Curiosity, by its very nature, requires a willingness to admit that you don't know something. It's an act of humility, a recognition that there's always more to learn, more to explore, and more to understand. Ego, on the other hand, thrives on the illusion of certainty. It clings to the need to be right, to appear knowledgeable, and to protect its image. When we allow curiosity to take precedence over ego, we create space for growth, connection, and discovery in ways that ego alone can never achieve. Asking questions fearlessly is the cornerstone of learning. From the moment we're born, we rely on questions to make sense of the world. Toddlers relentlessly ask, why? Because they haven't yet learned to fear looking uninformed or unskilled. But as we grow older, something shifts. We become more aware of how others perceive us, and with that awareness comes hesitation. We hold back our questions out of fear of seeming incompetent, of being judged, or of breaking the illusion that we've got it all figured out. What we don't realize is that by prioritizing our ego over our curiosity, we rob ourselves of invaluable opportunities to grow and connect. Asking questions is not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of strength. It takes courage to admit that you don't know something, especially in environments where you feel pressure to appear knowledgeable. But it's in these moments of vulnerability that the most profound learning occurs. A well-timed question can open doors to insights you might never have uncovered on your own. It can challenge assumptions, broaden your perspective, and help you see the world through a lens you hadn't considered. Fearlessly asking questions also fosters deeper connections with others. When you ask someone a thoughtful question, you're acknowledging their expertise, showing genuine interest in their perspective, and inviting them to share their story. This simple act builds trust, encourages collaboration, and creates a sense of mutual respect. People are often more receptive to someone who is authentically curious than someone who pretends to know it all. Curiosity also serves as a powerful antidote to judgment. When ego takes the lead, we're quick to form opinions, make assumptions, and dismiss ideas that don't align with our current beliefs. But when curiosity is in the driver's seat, we approach situations with an open mind. Instead of assuming we already have the answers, we become willing to explore alternative viewpoints. This shift doesn't just expand our understanding, it deepens our empathy and equips us to navigate an increasingly complex and interconnected world. One of the most significant barriers to asking questions fearlessly is the fear of looking foolish. But the truth is, the most successful and respected people often got there by asking more questions than anyone else. They're the ones who weren't afraid to dig deeper, to challenge the status quo, and to keep seeking clarity until they understood. They recognized that every question, no matter how simple it seemed, was a stepping stone to mastery. It's also worth noting that the act of asking a question doesn't just benefit the asker, it benefits everyone in the room. How many times have you sat in a meeting or class, too afraid to raise your hand, only to hear someone else ask the very thing you were wondering? By being the one to voice your question, you're not only satisfying your own curiosity, but also creating opportunities for others to learn. Another powerful aspect of curiosity is that it keeps us adaptable in an ever-changing world. As technology evolves, industries shift, and new challenges arise, the ability to ask the right questions becomes more valuable than ever. It's not enough to rely on what we already know. We need to be constantly exploring what we don't know and seeking out new ways of thinking and doing. In a world where information is more accessible than ever, the most important skill isn't memorizing facts, it's knowing how to ask the questions that lead to deeper understanding. The quality of our questions often determines the quality of our solutions. Great questions don't just lead to answers, they lead to insights, breakthroughs, and innovation. Prioritizing curiosity over ego doesn't mean abandoning confidence. It means recognizing that true confidence comes not from pretending to have all the answers, but from embracing the process of discovery. It means shifting your focus from trying to impress others to genuinely wanting to learn from them. When you approach life with this mindset, every interaction becomes an opportunity to grow. No one knows everything, even the smartest have insecurities. This idea is both humbling and empowering. We live in a world that often celebrates perfection and expertise, projecting an illusion that successful people have it all figured out. But peel back the surface, and you'll find that even the most accomplished individuals carry doubts, insecurities, and unanswered questions. Understanding this truth is liberating because it reminds us that uncertainty is a universal experience, not a personal flaw. From the outside, it's easy to believe that certain people operate with unwavering confidence. They speak with authority, their achievements are undeniable, and their resumes or credentials seem to cement their place as experts. But the reality is more nuanced. Behind the facade of certainty, many of these individuals grapple with imposter syndrome, the persistent feeling that they don't truly belong or that their success is a stroke of luck, rather than a testament to their abilities. This phenomenon doesn't discriminate by field or status. Scientists, CEOs, artists, educators, and leaders across industries have admitted to feeling it. Why then do these insecurities remain hidden? Part of the reason is cultural. We're conditioned to associate vulnerability with weakness. Society teaches us to mask uncertainty to protect our reputation and credibility. We fear that admitting what we don't know will undermine how others see us, or worse, jeopardize opportunities. But this widespread reluctance to share insecurities creates an unrealistic standard. It perpetuates the myth that only the infallible can succeed and leaves many people feeling isolated in their doubts. Even those who appear unshakable deal with moments of uncertainty, especially as they tackle greater challenges. Success often brings more responsibility, and with it, more opportunities to question one's abilities. A scientist awarded a groundbreaking grant might wonder if they can deliver results. An entrepreneur celebrated for a successful launch might fear their next venture won't live up to expectations. A writer whose debut novel captivates readers might be anxious about whether their second book will resonate as strongly. What makes these individuals stand out isn't the absence of doubt, but their willingness to move forward despite it. They understand that growth comes not from having all the answers, but from navigating uncertainty with curiosity and resilience. Insecurity is not a sign of inadequacy, it's a byproduct of stretching oneself into new and uncharted territory. In many ways, it signals that you're pushing boundaries and stepping beyond what you already know. Acknowledging that even the smartest people have insecurities also dismantles the unhealthy tendency to compare ourselves to others. Too often, we fall into the trap of seeing only the polished versions of others while fixating on our internal struggles. This comparison is unfair because it pits someone else's highlight reel against our behind-the-scenes reality. The truth is, everyone has moments of self-doubt, even those we admire. Understanding this can foster compassion for ourselves and gratitude for our own growth journey. It's also important to recognize that not knowing everything is not a weakness, but a strength. Those who succeed in the long term often do so because they embrace learning as a lifelong process. They're not ashamed to admit when they don't understand something. Instead, they ask questions, seek guidance, and take action to fill the gaps in their knowledge. This mindset not only equips them to overcome challenges, but also inspires those around them to approach life with the same openness and humility. Insecurity can be a powerful motivator when channeled constructively. It keeps us grounded, reminding us that we're all human and that no one has mastered every aspect of life. It pushes us to stay curious, to keep learning, and to remain adaptable in the face of change. Moreover, it encourages collaboration. When we admit that we don't have all the answers, we create opportunities to learn from others, build stronger connections, and achieve outcomes that wouldn't have been possible on our own. The belief that no one knows everything also changes how we view failure. When you accept that uncertainty is a natural part of growth, failures become less about proving your inadequacy and more about uncovering what you still need to learn. The smartest people aren't those who avoid mistakes entirely, but those who view setbacks as stepping stones rather than stumbling blocks. Their resilience comes not from the absence of self-doubt, but from their ability to navigate it. This perspective also reframes how we see leadership. Great leaders don't pretend to know it all, they surround themselves with capable teams and listen to their input. They model vulnerability by admitting when they need help and set an example of how to grow through uncertainty. In doing so, they create cultures where others feel safe to share ideas, make mistakes, and learn collectively. The best leaders seek rooms where they're challenged. Leadership is often misunderstood as being about authority, control, or the ability to direct others with certainty. While these aspects can play a role, true leadership is far more dynamic. It involves a constant state of learning, adapting, and growing. The most effective leaders understand that they cannot lead from a place of stagnation. To remain impactful, they must actively seek environments where their ideas, assumptions, and skills are put to the test. It is in these challenging spaces that leaders refine their thinking, expand their perspectives, and strengthen their capacity to guide others effectively. When a leader consistently places themselves in rooms where they are challenged, it signals a profound sense of self-awareness. It requires acknowledging that they do not and cannot have all the answers. This acknowledgement is not a sign of weakness, but a recognition that leadership is not about being the most knowledgeable person in the room. It's about facilitating the best outcomes. By surrounding themselves with people who push their thinking and provide alternate viewpoints, leaders are better equipped to navigate complex decisions. Seeking challenging environments also cultivates humility. Leadership positions often come with the temptation to remain in spaces where expertise is unquestioned and authority is respected without challenge. While this can feel reassuring, it is also a trap. These echo chambers create blind spots and limit growth. Great leaders recognize this risk and instead choose rooms where their ideas face constructive criticism, where they are exposed to smarter approaches, and where they have to defend and rethink their assumptions. Leadership thrives on adaptability, and being challenged regularly strengthens this trait. The world is constantly changing, industries evolve, technologies advance, and societies shift. Leaders who limit themselves to comfortable environments struggle to respond to these changes. On the other hand, those who seek challenges are continually exercising their adaptability, learning to pivot their strategies and embracing new ways of thinking. This agility not only benefits their leadership, but also inspires others to do the same. Another reason why the best leaders seek rooms where they are challenged is their commitment to the people they lead. Leadership is inherently relational. It's about empowering teams, fostering collaboration, and creating an environment where individuals can thrive. To do this effectively, leaders must stay ahead of the curve, learning not just for themselves, but for the benefit of others. Challenging environments expose leaders to new tools, approaches, and strategies that they can bring back to their teams. This cascade effect uplifts the organization as a whole, sparking innovation and ensuring collective growth. Leadership also involves making difficult decisions, and the ability to make sound judgments is sharpened in challenging spaces. When a leader regularly confronts diverse perspectives and tough questions, they become more skilled at weighing options and considering various outcomes. They learn to approach problems with a more nuanced understanding and can navigate gray areas with confidence. These skills are not developed in rooms where agreement is easy or opposition is minimal. They are forged in environments that demand critical thinking and deliberation. There is also an inherent element of courage in this approach to leadership. Seeking out challenges is not comfortable, nor is it without risks. It requires vulnerability to admit when you're wrong, strength to navigate unfamiliar situations, and a willingness to occasionally fail. But it's precisely this courage that distinguishes great leaders. By demonstrating their own willingness to be stretched and tested, they model the kind of behavior they want to see in their teams. They create a culture where growth and experimentation are valued over maintaining the status quo. Leaders who embrace being challenged are also deeply committed to their long-term vision. They understand that challenges are not obstacles to their success, but stepping stones toward it. Each tough conversation, each moment of doubt, and each constructive critique provides them with insights and lessons that fuel their journey forward. This perspective allows them to maintain focus and resilience, even when the path isn't easy. Seeking out challenging environments reflects a deep belief in the potential of others. It demonstrates that a leader is not intimidated by being surrounded by people who are smarter, more skilled, or more experienced in certain areas. Instead, they see these individuals as resources and collaborators who can elevate collective efforts. This mindset shifts leadership from being a solitary endeavor to a shared mission, where the diversity of thought and expertise becomes the greatest strength. Growth only comes from discomfort. This concept is one of the most profound truths about personal and professional development, yet it's also one of the most difficult to embrace. Human beings are naturally wired to seek comfort and avoid pain. Our instincts push us toward environments and routines where we feel secure and competent, where our abilities are validated, and where our egos are unchallenged. But the irony is that real growth, the kind that transforms us, expands our potential, and propels us forward, can only be found in the discomfort we often try to avoid. Discomfort is a signal that you are venturing into the unknown, stepping outside the boundaries of what you already know or what you've already mastered. It's the space where learning happens. When you find yourself in a situation where you feel unsure, stretched, or even out of your depth, it means you're in a position to acquire new skills, knowledge, and perspectives. Discomfort forces you to confront limitations, adapt to unfamiliar circumstances, and discover strengths you didn't realize you had. Consider how the process of physical training mirrors the experience of growth in other areas of life. When you exercise, you push your body beyond its current capabilities. This often results in soreness, fatigue, and discomfort. But it's precisely this strain that signals your muscles are growing stronger and more resilient. Without pushing past the point of comfort, there is no progress. The same principle applies to emotional, intellectual, and professional development. Staying comfortable means staying the same. Growth, on the other hand, requires effort, perseverance, and the willingness to endure temporary struggle for long-term rewards. Discomfort also plays a crucial role in revealing your blind spots. In the spaces where you feel at ease, it's easy to operate on autopilot. You rely on what you know, avoiding risks and challenges that could disrupt your sense of security. But in doing so, you fail to recognize the areas where you might lack knowledge, skill, or understanding. Discomfort disrupts this pattern by forcing you to confront these gaps directly. Whether it's a tough conversation, a challenging project, or stepping into a new environment, discomfort creates opportunities for honest self-assessment and meaningful growth. The fear of discomfort often stems from the unknown. Humans are naturally wary of uncertainty because it comes with risks, the risk of failure, of rejection, of making mistakes, or of exposing vulnerabilities. But it's important to recognize that these risks are also opportunities in disguise. Every failure teaches you a lesson. Every rejection builds resilience. Every mistake provides insight. And every moment of vulnerability strengthens your capacity for authenticity and connection. Discomfort is not something to be feared. It's a necessary part of the journey to becoming your best self. Growth through discomfort requires a mindset shift. It's about learning to view challenges as opportunities rather than obstacles. When faced with a situation that makes you uncomfortable, the initial instinct might be to retreat, to find an easier path or a safer alternative. But choosing to lean into the discomfort instead can lead to unexpected breakthroughs. Each time you overcome a challenge, you expand your capacity to handle future ones. You become more adaptable, confident, and capable not because you avoided struggle, but because you faced it head-on. Discomfort is also essential for creativity and innovation. When everything feels predictable and familiar, it's difficult to think outside the box or come up with new ideas. But when you're forced out of your comfort zone, your mind begins to explore alternative solutions and possibilities. The challenges you encounter ignite curiosity, inspire ingenuity, and foster resourcefulness. In this way, discomfort becomes a catalyst not only for personal growth, but for creating something meaningful and impactful in the world around you. It's worth noting that the most rewarding accomplishments often come with the greatest discomfort. Whether it's learning a new skill, pursuing a passion, or achieving a long-term goal, the path is rarely easy. It's filled with moments of doubt, struggle, and uncertainty. But it's also these moments that make the journey worthwhile. When you reflect on your achievements, you'll find that the pride and satisfaction you feel are rooted in the obstacles you overcame to reach them. Without the discomfort, there is no triumph. Seeking out discomfort doesn't mean recklessly putting yourself in harm's way or ignoring the need for rest and self-care. It's about recognizing that moments of difficulty are a normal and necessary part of the growth process. It's about embracing challenges with courage and resilience, knowing that every uncomfortable moment is a stepping stone toward your potential. Each experience of discomfort carries with it the possibility of transformation. Remember, every expert was once a beginner. Every successful person felt, at one point, like they didn't belong. It's the willingness to stay in the room, to learn, to grow, and to show up, despite the discomfort. That's what separates those who stagnate from those who thrive. So the next time you find yourself thinking, I'm the stupidest person here, don't run. Don't shrink. Don't fake it. Instead, lean in. Celebrate the fact that you're in a space where you can grow. Because being the stupidest in the room is not the end of your journey, it's the beginning of something extraordinary. Thank you.